We're back. We're so back. Um, I've fallen short in these past couple of weeks. Um, in my process to retain my sexual essence, I fell short. Um, in my process to kind of remove and purge certain dopaminergic behaviors in my life, I've fallen short. And these things tend to happen from time to time. It's not like Rocky says in the movie. It's not about how hard you fall or get hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep getting back up, you know. And my dad always told me that too. He said, you can make a mistake, but you need to get back on the horse. And the thing about that, the thing is you need to be in the right mind space. That helps you to do that. When you fall short, there's something that can happen where you start to blame yourself. You start to think of yourself as defective or there's something wrong with you. And I know that that's happened to me plenty of times in my life. But that isn't the case. There's nothing wrong with you. You're human. And the thing about humanity is you're going to make a lot of mistakes that you need to overcome. When you get back up after the hit, when you get back up after a mistake, you train yourself in a way. This mistake doesn't have as much of a hold on me. Not to say that you want to keep making the mistake, but when you do fall short, and, sometimes vices are a way for you to cope with things. Sometimes situations come up in which you do something in order to deal with something. Or, you know, there's certain reasons why you would want to fall into a vice or, you know, you go backward on what you say you're going to do. There's many reasons. Now, you should be able to forgive yourself because if you don't, then you can't move forward at all. But then after you forgive yourself, you start doing the thing that you said you were going to do again. Now, I had a pretty, not hectic week last week, but I wasn't here. I was up in New York. And, I went to see family. So there was a disruption in my usual routine. But even before that, I fell short because, with the free time that I have, at times it's hard to maintain. It's not hard. But what it was is that to maintain this requires consistency, requires new thought, it requires new perspectives, it requires me to learn. And that was not the norm for a lot of my life, especially consistency. And I have to forgive myself because the old patterns, the old states of mind that are comfortable to me are what I went back to. And there's a frequency of luck. There's a mind state of luck that happens. You can't tap into that when you're beating yourself up. A huge problem that I've had with myself was that I beat myself up. I used to think I was just being hard on myself, and for good reasons, you know. I had higher standards for myself and I wanted to whip myself into shape. But that kept me in a low state of mind and didn't allow me to see the blessings that I was surrounded by. Now, it also made me very jealous around the people who I thought it was just so easy for them to just get everything, and I had to do all this mental work, and I had to whip myself into shape, and I was defective, I was faulty. That was my issue. That doesn't allow you to tap into the frequency of luck. The mind state of luck. It's a skill. Being lucky is a skill. And you know why? It's that red car effect that Tony Robbins always talks about. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, there's this analogy where if you're told that every time you see a red car, you get $500, what's going to happen? You're going to see a red car. Now, to break down that analogy, you have the incentive to see certain things. And then after that incentive is given, what if I said, hey, how many blue cars did you see? You're probably so focused on the red cars, you wouldn't even be able to see the blue cars. So, or you'd see them, but you wouldn't really pay attention to them. Now, us as humans, we have a negativity bias. And the tie into why that is because of, anthropologic reasons. It helped us to survive. We don't need that level of survival mechanism anymore. And so, what does this negativity bias kind of turn into? Like, what does it manifest as in our head? All the negatives that happen, we can tend to overfocus on them and overfixate on them. And what that will do is that will cause an identity to be made around those things. Some people may call themselves unlucky. Some people think it's their fault. And that negativity bias is the incentive to see negatives in your life. It was the incentive to see negatives in my life. And then I started to see it in others through the lens of jealousy. But it wasn't negativity toward them, although it does kind of turn into that after a while. But the negativity was toward myself. I was using them kind of as the avatar of that negativity. Like, an angry, you know, an angry parent who always compares their child to somebody else. Why can't you be like them? That's how I was with myself. Why can't you be like them? Cuts you off from the frequency of luck. And the frequency of luck is using that same principle in a positive way. And the frequency of luck starts with gratitude, being grateful for things. When you're grateful for things, you see how blessed you truly are. Now, that is the incentive for you to see other ways in which you're blessed. And you'll be surprised at how many things you can find to really bless yourself with. Or, you know, it, the ways that in which you're blessed, really. You know, I have a roof over my head. I can feed myself. I have money in the bank. And I have clothes on my back and a loving family. That is blessing on blessings on blessings. Some people don't have that, but they have something. And that really lets you know that you can work with what you got. Now, it's hard to train yourself out of the other frequency, the frequency that tells you how bad everything is or how much you don't have. Um, but you can start with the gratitude, and then you can start to see things pop up in your life that you probably didn't pay attention to that are blessings that you could be even further grateful for. And then it starts to spread into areas like your jobs, your work. You may despise your job, but it feeds you, puts clothes on your back. It allows you to take care of bills. It allows you to live. And I don't want to get into the whole, bills and inflation and whatnot. You're dealing with it. You're able to survive. You're able to eat. You're able to live. And that in and of itself allows you your own version of wealth. It allows you to be okay with where you are. You don't have to stay there, but it alleviates the pressure of being lower than where you perceive you need to be or where your comparisons may lead you to think you should be. And if you start to see the blessings in your job, you may work harder. More opportunities, more blessings may come into your life. Negativity can permeate the actions in your life. Positivity does the same thing. And it's not magic. It's the placebo effect of anything. You start to see more opportunities in your life, and more opportunities come. Scripture in the Bible that says, to those who have everything, more will be given to them. But to those who have nothing, everything will be taken from them. In a literal sense, that makes no sense. But in regard to the video and everything that I've said up until now, it makes perfect sense, doesn't it? And you should start to forgive yourself like I did when it comes to falling off track. Forgive yourself because you can always get back on the path that you're supposed to be on. I forgive myself for not making videos. And I want to make videos. I want to keep being creative, keep stimulating the creative spark that's in my life. As you can see, my keyboard is on this side of the room now and not standing up against the wall because I want to keep stimulating that creative spark in my life. And I'm blessed to be able to do so. So, this is the video for today. I'm getting back on track. And after a while, flow will be hit. Maybe I could talk about that later. But until then, so long.